All right, this is Rudy and Aaron. It's November the 1st, around 11:30 in the morning. This is going to be a very long video, okay, because we're going to cover 6 pages of notes and our entire experience from 9 a.m. up until about, I would say 11 or 11:15 a.m. or so, maybe 11. But let me give a summary and then I'll start going through my notes, and Aaron, you can jump in. And the best time to do a brain dump on what you've just experienced is right after you experienced it, because then it's the most accurate. I'm not saying that every single thing of my notes is 100% accurate, but it's the best that I can recall, okay? It's hard to remember like the last 2 hours in every detail, with people speaking very fast and them going through multiple witnesses and multiple defendants and everything like that. But I got Aaron here, and she'll add to the recollection. Let me give you a summary. If you don't want to listen to I don't know how long this is going to go, but let me give you the summary of my general impression and the highlights, and then we'll go into the details of my notes. Okay.
I'm getting something in the trunk.
Okay. The highlights are: we show up at 30 minutes till 9 o'clock this morning. He was scheduled to be on the list at 9 a.m. You all right? Okay. So about maybe 5 to 10 minutes before 9 a.m., somebody that I highly suspect is Kenneth Meade. I mean, I looked at his eyes, he looked at my eyes, and I could just sense like a devil. Now, that's not slander and defamation. That's just my opinion of the man. But I said, this man looks like Kenneth Meade, but I wasn't actually close enough to read his badge. And but he escorted a Channel 3 black reporter into the courtroom, and the Channel 3 reporter was talking to another individual before he entered, and another individual said, what are you here for? And I said, and the Channel 3 reporter, who's like a black young guy, I don't think he has a good understanding of the bigger picture of what's going on. He said, oh, somebody made a terrorist video. So isn't it interesting that Kenneth Meade is escorting, and when I say Kenneth Meade, from the rest of this point in the video, it's a man that I highly suspect is Detective Kenneth Meade, is escorting a, keep in mind that Kenneth Meade is also going after Tactical Tony per Gavin Syme. Gavin Syme made a video yesterday and talked about Kenneth Meade, and that this Kenneth Meade, if you add benefits and everything else in his salary that he's pulling in, it's close to 170, 180,000. That was in 2013. So now that it's 2016, he's probably pulling close to 200,000, and he's making extra money by sitting around and watching YouTube videos. I suspect he's like, watches YouTube videos, gets paid a tremendous amount of money from the Federal Reserve and his bosses for trying to capture terrorists on YouTube. And Tactical Tony has given, we've heard third hand, so I can't say that I know it firsthand, that Kenneth Meade has targeted him, and now we know that from Bryce telling us that Kenneth Meade has targeted Bryce. Okay, so anyway, Kenneth Meade, the man who I suspect is Kenneth Meade, escorts the Channel 3 reporter. Channel 3 reporter sets up his video camera. It looks like it has a microphone, and I'll talk after the courtroom. I asked him, I said, were you recording what's going on in there? He gave me like oh no, he said, we won't use that. So I gather they were recording it, they just won't use it, but they were doing video. And they were, I want to talk about the lawyer, Marissa Pensadine. Okay, she gives the impression that she's really busy, but she's trying to act in the best interest of Bryce, but I think she's possibly being manipulated by bigger powers. I think that Bryce has been targeted by corrupt cops in Las Vegas, specifically the cops that are a part of the counterterrorism division, and I suspect that Marissa Pensadine is being used as a pawn. That's my suspicion, but she does give the impression, because she did openly talk to us. She approached us and she talked to us voluntarily, and it could be that I'm completely wrong. Maybe she is just a busy public defender trying to do the right thing, and maybe my initial perception, but I'm always suspicious.
She said she was an hour and a half late because she had another courtroom to attend to.
Yeah.
And
keep in mind, they wanted to do Bryce Quellar at the very first case. It was maybe it wasn't the first, but they did a couple quick ones, and then Bryce was, I think, third. And they said, let's do Bryce. And then, where's Marissa Pensadine? That was like at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? An hour and a half later, she shows up, and they're constantly like saying, where is Marissa? Where is Marissa? She finally shows up, and then they said that the plea agreement and the indictment there's something wrong with them.
There was a typo. It was missing the word attempt.
They said it was missing the word attempt, and that he signed the wrong plea deal. Okay, so get this: when they handed Bryce the new plea deal, which he's like, this is all, he's learning this for the first time. The time frames, like the sentencing range, was totally different than what Bryce remembered. Not only that, But they wanted him to sign it right there in court. And get this, Channel 3 news reporter that was escorted in by Kenneth Mead, man, he's got the camera focused right on Marissa and Bryce as they're talking.
The camera microphone was about 5 feet away from her and Bryce when they were doing their confidential client.
Yeah,
chat.
there's a confidential client-attorney privilege that should be happening, and yet the Channel 3 news reporter has got his camera, man, 4 to 5 feet away from Bryce and his attorney as they're speaking about the details of what Bryce should do regarding this all new information and all new plea deal. It's horrific. It's horrific.
When the judge has the attorneys up at the podium to talk to him, he's got a special button he throws for noise cancellation. But when she's talking to Bryce, there's no noise cancellation.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And get this, yeah, when the attorneys, the defendant and the plaintiff are talking to the judge, you got all this noise cancellation, so you can't hear what they're talking about. But when
I just said that.
Okay, yeah, but as my wife said, when Bryce's attorney is speaking to Bryce, there's no noise cancellation, and they got the Channel 3 news reporter like 4 feet away with the camera zoomed in, analyzing his thought processes, analyzing his words. You should be able to think about your plea deal and what you're going to do in like the privacy of your own, room as you thinking about, what's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And I think they did that because the judge said that Bryce got over 100 letters of support worldwide. 100 letters of support, and he said that he read every one of them. And see, they know they're fixing to tag Bryce to be a felon for the rest of his life. They know that it's wrong, and they know that people see that it's wrong. So I believe that what was done today was a cover your ass type situation, that they wanted it documented up one side and down the other, that Bryce signed that of his own free volition. They wanted it done in courtroom, in front of the camera, in front of all the witnesses, that Bryce signed. That's why they came up with this typo thing, and we got to have him sign another one. And so when anybody comes back later and says that Bryce was coerced because of threats to his brother or threats because a SWAT team raided his mother's house, they'll say, well, he signed it in court, we have it on camera. You can't get any more linchpin than that. You know what I mean? And so I believe this whole thing was a setup specifically to cover their butt
for the media
to say, you saw Bryce sign it with your own camera. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do a show for the media, but the media's too stupid to figure what's really going out. Matter of fact, the courtroom attorneys, they're just they're taking anything they can to spin it like we got a big terrorist in Las Vegas who's about to kill everybody. And all the write-ups have been slanted against Bryce. And keep in mind, when Chad Joy in the FBI in Alaska, when he did a whistleblower for how the FBI acted, one of the complaints that Chad Joy, when he did whistleblower for law enforcement, is that there was inappropriate leaks to the media about the defendant. And that's exactly what's going on here. It's exactly what's going on here. But let me say this too. Not only is Bryce one of the smartest young men that I've ever met in my life, very astute, his brother and his sister, and I won't mention their names for privacy reasons, they're hard-working, sweet people. I mean, they just exude like love for their brother, but you can tell they understand that, hey, this ain't right, and they're, you just would have to meet them to understand how sweet and wholesome they are.
They trust in the Lord too.
Yeah, we said, hey, we need to trust in the Lord. They were on board with that. They said, we've already been doing that. So they love their brother, and they know what's being done to Bryce is wrong. So anyway, also regarding the news media. So I asked the guy, I said, how come you get to bring in a camera? He says, well, you have to fill out a form one day in advance. So they gave me the phone number. Her name is Marianne Price. And if you want to show up and get if you want to bring your own camera in, I don't want to be the only one with a camera. Her phone number is 702-671-4534. And I called her and she told me where to go to get the form. Now I got to go get the form. I got to fill it out. I got to scan it, and then I got to email it to her in a PDF file format. And then I got to call her, make sure she's got it, and then they're going to put me under consideration. And she was asking me questions like, what organization are you with? Who are you? What courtroom do you want? Who's the judge in the courtroom? Who are you trying to cover? And so I told her it was Pastor Wiley Drake with Congressional Prayer Conference. He's the vice president with Dr. Alan Keyes back in 2008. They had extra marshals in the courtroom specifically for Bryce.
The judge said that.
The judge actually said it from the bench. He said, because the public defender was an hour and a half late, he had to apologize to the marshals for wasting their time and said, we expected to do Bryce's case earlier in the day. I apologize for you guys sitting here all day. And he specific, we have these extra marshals in the courtroom for Bryce.
I thought the marshals were there for the murderer who threatened the
oh my goodness,
the audience.
Okay.
After he was guilty and sentenced for killing somebody.
Now get this,
a little boy.
There's a black guy, man. He
leave all that out.
What?
All that other stuff. The black guy stuff.
Why? I need to tell that story. Why do you want?
I just said it was a murder.
I want to tell everything happened.
Oh.
I took detailed notes. Okay, so keep in mind, I want to just give a quick rundown. His name is Burton, Burton. It's the notes I took. He's a black guy. From what I gathered, there was a fisticuff. He accidentally shot some guy and he died. So there was an innocent man that was slain, and it was because Burton, they said it was accidental. Okay, that was the word that I heard. They were recommending anywhere from 10 to 15 years for this guy who shot somebody. Okay, and Bryce got threatened with 20 years. Anyway, they brought up the mother of the innocent slain boy, and she was a black lady, right? And she gave a heart-wrenching speech about missing her son. I mean, I couldn't even do it justice. You had to hear it firsthand about how she misses her son. It was 2 years ago, but she breaks down every three days now.
Same with the stepdad and the sister.
They brought in the stepdad and the sister was like going after the stepdad and the mother were more like, we want to forgive you, but there hasn't been enough time. We know it's right to forgive you, and they were like of the forgiving thing, but they hadn't really got to the forgiving stage yet. But you knew that that's the direction they wanted to go in, because it was tearing up their own life, thinking about how they lost their son. The sister, on the other hand, who's more young, and she basically said, he took my brother's life, he did this, and every time we have a birthday, every time we have an, she was like going after this guy. As she was talking, the guy in the defendant area, keep in mind there's like 13 or 14 defendants. Bryce is just one of many. He's rolling his eyes.
Yeah, he looked nuts.
He looked like, hey, it's like, I'm tired of you guys talking bad about me. He said, I want to leave this behind me and move on with my life. And he did say, I'm sorry for what happened, but I want to move on. It's like, if you accidentally kill somebody, I wouldn't think the appropriate thing to say would be, I accidentally killed you, I need to move on with my life. It's like, but he did go through the motions of saying he was sorry to the victim when he was given a chance to speak, but he was rolling his eyes when they were saying that, you took our brother. And then when the family of the innocent slain man was leaving the courtroom, from what I recall, and it's not a photographic memory, but he kind of jumped up, because I know the sister must have said something, or maybe the one of the family members, and he kind of jumped up, and if I recall correctly, I'm gonna kill you too. It's like
commotion.
There was a big commotion, and he was like rebellious, man. He was like, but
that's why I thought the marshals were there.
Well, yeah, it's like they don't have marshals for this guy that's acting like that, and Bryce is sitting there like a saint, just sitting there doing everything he's told and acting by the rules, and polite and being polite. They don't have extra marshals for the gang member who's like rolling his eyes and saying, I'm going to kill you from the defendant area, but they have extra marshals for Bryce. But anyway, any other highlights before we go into the details of my 6-page notes? That I do think the whole thing was set up specifically for the media, so they could get Bryce signing that piece of paper, so that it would convince the media that he's guilty. But the media doesn't know about them threatening the brother. The media doesn't know about them SWAT team raiding the mother's house. And I don't know that Bryce will bring that up. Bryce, and we'll talk to him later, but he's probably lost all confidence in our judicial system. Do I think it's right that Bryce is signing the plea deal? I thought about that long and hard. What would I do? Now, if somebody said, there's a case-by-case basis. I'm imagining myself in prison, and like I'm imagining like a corrupt Las Vegas cop going after my wife Erin. And if I just sign this plea deal and spend 20 years in prison, they're not going to hurt Erin. You know what? I might sign the deal, but that's different than if I'm out of prison. Let's take Ross Perot as an example. If Ross Perot's running for president and they're threatening Ross Perot's family, I wouldn't sign the plea deal. Let's say that I put myself in Ross Perot's shoes. No, I'm outside of prison. I can protect my family. I'm outside of prison. But if they got me locked behind bars, it's like, man, I don't want to sign that plea deal. I don't even care if you kill me. You can torture me. You can do whatever they want to do to me in prison. But when you talk about hurting members of my family, what's a little piece of paper, man? Just don't mess with my family. And I think that's Bryce's mindset. I can't say for sure, but I suspect it's his mindset. And there's a lot of that missing in the courtroom as he's signing that plea deal. All right, babe. Any other highlights before I go into my notes? All right. So, page 1. So I already said Ken Mead showed up. He has, and again, I'm saying Ken Mead. I highly suspect it's Ken Mead by the look on his face when our eyes met. I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. So I think Ken Mead shows up at Channel 3 News
with two other people. One chick that looked like she was in front of the camera. She was asking after the fact, the brother and the sister, who they were and if they had a comment. Their only comment was, "This just isn't right."
Yeah. Yeah, and he's got a great brother and a great sister that showed up today. The only 4 people that showed up to support Bryce were his brother and his sister and me and Aaron, as far as I know. If there was another person, they were anonymous and we didn't get introduced to them. So
she also wanted to know their names, and I think they declined, but I'm sure she knew who they were. And the sister mentioned that it's a First Amendment issue, and then I'm sure the news chick knew who we were and didn't ask us for any comments.
Yeah, they didn't ask us for anything. And I was openly speaking about Kenneth Mead and that I think he's being targeted for something that is not a felony. And there's other people that are being targeted, and we have a law enforcement out of control down here in Las Vegas. So kind of everybody knew what I felt without even talking to me, right? But anyway, I remember the reporter saying, why are you here? And another gentleman, because keep in mind there's 13 or 14 defendants. I didn't count them all, but I think there's around 13 or 14. There's lots of people that are sitting in the gallery on the left-hand side. And so there's other people there besides just for supporters of Bryce. And I remember hearing one of the gentlemen ask, "Why are you here, Mr. Reporter?" He said, "Oh, somebody did made a terrorist video." Like, that's all you know? You just, But anyway, like I said, there was only 4 people that showed up for Bryce, his brother, sister, Aaron, and me. They said, and there was a big sign outside the courtroom, no video, no audio. We took a picture of it because it was outside the courtroom, and we could. There was gold fringe on the flag for all you folks who think that's interesting. There was a picture of the Statue of Liberty. There was armed guards everywhere, not only the extra marshals that were there specifically for Bryce, but there was other armed guards that were all over and just perturbated the courtroom in anticipation of, any sort of altercation. Outburst, yeah. I told you guys I'm going to try to get my own press pass. That's going to be my focus today. Keep in mind, this is going to cost us thousands of extra dollars because we got to rearrange our flight schedule. I had a pre-approved vacation. I was supposed to go back to work Thursday, but now they're going to sentence him on Thursday. So this stalling and delay tactic is causing Aaron and I and anybody else that would have showed up, costing them a tremendous amount of money by changing your flights, buying a new hotel, making other arrangements. You got to call your boss and say, "Hey, I need a few more days off," and I don't know if they'll approve. And it's like, what am I going to do if they don't approve? Because I got to support my friend Bryce. So, just think about the stalling and delay tactics these guys issue and put on Bryce's supporters. When we first got to the courthouse in the morning, I counted 8 people in the audience, and they made all the supporters of the defendant sit on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side was the media and other people. I guess they weren't supporters. They were just maybe courthouse officials.
Lawyers.
There was lots of lawyers and attorneys and assistants. I counted like 9 people in suits, 4 women and 5 men. Judge Richard Scotty enters the courtroom around 9 o'clock. He wants to handle the preferences cases first. Bryce was one of the preference cases. One of the lawyers, not Bryce's, but one of the lawyers, they said his wife was in labor. And so one of the lawyers couldn't be there because his wife was having a baby. And so the defendant just said he's got to wait. Bryce was actually, like I said, they went number 1, number 2 real quick. Bryce was number 3. But then Marissa wasn't there. And her reason that she gave was she had another courthouse to be in and represent another defendant. And she was an hour and a half late. So whether that's true or not, you guys will have to make your own judgment. She did voluntarily walk up to us. She thanked us for being there. She was congenial. But you got to understand, and I know she's going to listen to this, I'm suspicious, right?
She said that Bryce is one of the brightest boys she's ever met.
She did say, and she said that Bryce is performing a risk reward analysis, right, on this whole situation, and so that's one of the reasons he's signing the deal.
And it was a special name for the guilty plea. It started with the letter A, Adam or something.
Addendum. There was an addendum, yeah.
Well, there's a type of law term named after it's like a surname that starts with A.
Okay, well, there's lots of legal terms flying around this whole courthouse that if you're not, and I'm not familiar with all of them, so Aaron's absolutely right.
It means if you're signing the guilty thing, but you really don't think you're guilty, but you're signing it anyway.
Okay. All right. So anyway, they said, well, let's make Bryce's case a trailer, which means we're going to put him at the end of the list now. So then they started going through all the other defendants sitting in the courtroom. When Bryce's case got postponed, he looked very disappointed. That was my impression. The lawyers for the defendant and the plaintiff kept approaching the bench, and like Aaron said, they kept making this white noise so you couldn't hear what they said. Although I did hear what they said a few times, even over the white noise. Somebody said, the judge said to the guy that was there, because when Mrs. Pensadine isn't there has to be somebody for the defense there. So there's like one guy that's always there, I guess, even if he's not representing Bryce. And the judge asked him, has not Miss Pensadine discussed this with Mr. Quiller? And I don't know what specifically he was talking about. I just remember that. But anyway, Channel 3 down here in Las Vegas was down here to record it. I already told you guys that. He was a young guy. I don't think he knows anything about the details of the case other than he's just sitting down here to record it. Bryce's brother and sister were here. They were very sweet. I think they're using a stall and delay tactics that cost anybody that came down here money, specifically Aaron and I in vacation time. They are purposely stalling. Okay, so that's my first 2 pages. My third page of notes, they moved a prisoner. Get this. Bryce was kind of sitting in an awkward spot for the camera to capture, and so Bryce had to go to the bathroom. When they brought him back, and he's wearing handcuffs. He's got shackles on his wrists that go around his waist, and I couldn't tell if he had shackles on his feet, but it's possibly he did as well. But when they brought him back from the bathroom, they moved a prisoner to specifically sit Bryce like 3 or 4 feet right in front of the Channel 3 news camera. They specifically positioned him like a lab rat right in front of Channel 3 News. Bryce was very stoic, although when he was sitting there was a smile that came on his face, but he's not allowed to communicate with us in any way. So I can't say that he nodded or smiled at us. I can just say that it's my belief that when he recognized that he had a few supporters in the courtroom, that a smile briefly came on his face, and he knew that he couldn't communicate with us in any way, even facial expressions. So that was good to see. We kept asking ourselves for the whole hour and a half after it started, where's the public defender? Where's the public defender? And even the judge kept asking. We talked about the accidental shooting with Burton, and I would imagine that story must be in Las Vegas News if he killed somebody. The guy that died, the innocent man that got killed, his name is Tyrell. So if my notes are halfway correct, it was a black guy named Burton that killed a black guy named Tyrell. The speech by the mom and the stepfather, yeah, and I won't say it again. The speech by the mom and the stepfather and the sister were heartbreaking. The guy that got the murder charges was 11 to 29 years, and then Bryce had the murderer, not the murderer, but the guy who was accused. There was an outburst at the end when the family was walking out, and it was a bad outburst, like something to the effect of "I'll kill you too." It's like, well, you got to be kidding me, man. Anyway, page 4. After the family of the murder victim was let out of the courtroom, they brought in 45 children that I would say were in 1st or 2nd grade. What would you guess, babe?
I don't know, grade 3 or 4.
Yeah, very young kids. Like, there's 45 kids that came in and sat on the right-hand side of the courtroom, and then they had a guy give up and give a constitutional class to these 45 kids. Now, if that's not for show, I don't know what it is. Do they do that all the time? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do it every day, and they just did it for the cameras, while this Bryce case is going on. But they gave a constitutional class.
They also handed out constitutions.
Yeah, they handed out constitutions. I was like, maybe they need to give a constitution to Kenneth Meade. Okay, Marissa Pensadine wasn't only just representing Bryce. She was absent for I think a couple of other defendants. Then the judge actually said we have extra marshals in the courtroom for the Quellar case. The judge thanked the marshals for waiting because he thought that was going to be taken care of in the morning. 1.5 hours later, Marissa Pensadine walks in. As I already said this before, but I want to say it again to give it stress, the importance of it. As Marissa Pensadine and this whole John Galt situation, I don't know if you guys know what a John Galt situation is, but in the military they call it a cluster fudge. Like, oh well, there was a typo in the plea deal, and the indictment was mislabeled, and we got all these paperwork that's messed up. Then Marissa Pensadine goes to the judge's thing or goes over to the prosecution, brings over another piece of paper, and has Bryce sign it 4 feet away from Channel 3 News. And then the lawyer has Bryce stand up and ask him in front of the camera, are you signing this of your own free will? Are you under duress? Is there anybody forcing you to sign this? It was like a big show, just that they would cover their butt up one side and down the other. Now that they've been caught, that they've got on Channel 3 local news that Bryce signed that piece of paper. So they made dang sure that was documented for the cameras. All right, page 5.
At least you can get up and go out to the bathroom if you need to.
Yeah, you can go to the bathroom. But I tell you what, when I was doing the Ken Hovind thing, if you go to the bathroom too many times, they'll say if you leave the court, you can't come back in. So you got to be cautious in there, and they control everything. What Bryce was signing to was a no contest plea. It maintains your innocence, but the court will treat you as guilty. Now, you legal folks out there, if he signs no contest, does that mean he has a felony on his record? I think it does, because I think he said it was what he's pleading no contest to is a Category B felony, is what I wrote down. They said it was a minimum of 1 year, not more than 10 years. And they said they made it clear that even though the state won't ask for more than 48 months, that the judge can sentence Bryce up to 10 years. And there's no guarantee that the judge won't do that. Although he said, I'm not inclined to go more than what the prosecution asked for. So keep in mind, even though Bryce signed a deal that was an agreement with the prosecution.
I don't think the main prosecutor was in the room either.
What do you think her name was? Demont or Dedont?
No, there was a little girl in there, and she said that they couldn't proceed today because the big wig of the prosecution wasn't even there either.
It's a big FUBAR, I think that's a term in the military. Everything was FUBAR. When it came to Bryce, man, they quickly and efficiently handled all the cases. When it came to Bryce, everything started to fall apart. Nobody had the paperwork. There was big misunderstanding on the sentencing. We had the plea deal written wrong, and it was a typo. I mean, it was just mistake after mistake after mistake when Bryce's case came up. Absolutely absurd, but they made sure they had him on camera signing that thing and getting up and answering questions that he was signing of his own free will. Okay, so they said they were going to postpone it till Thursday. It's now Tuesday, which means all of our flight reservations. And she even came over and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you got to leave." And I'm thinking to myself, I ain't going to freaking leave. Are you kidding me? I'm not. I'm going to do everything I can to stay. I'm not 100% sure we can stay, but we're going to see what we can do. Okay, there was a multiple approaching the benches when Bryce's situation came up. There was at least 2 approaching of the benches on 2 separate occasions. And you had the white noise. It gave Bryce very little time, puts him on the spot in front of everybody to make decisions. And for you guys who know about plea abatements and what options are, keep in mind Bryce is a smart man. And he's gonna make his own decisions. But I think he understands how corrupt the system is. And if he thinks there's a chance he can get out, even with a plea deal, I believe Bryce is going to go for it. And it's not my or Aaron's role to tell Bryce what to do. Even though we may agree or disagree with him signing that plea deal, I know you guys are going to tell him, don't sign the plea deal, take it to a jury. It's not Aaron and I's role to do that. We're here to support Bryce, and if he wants to sign it, if he's weighed what's going on with his mother.
He's a smart guy, it's his life.
Right. If you want to talk to him and write him a letter or try to get a hold of him, you do that. But we're not going to try to influence what Bryce wants to do because it's his life.
He knows the case better than anyone.
Yeah, exactly. We already talked about he said judge, but there was white noise counselor for the judge, but not for the client privilege counsel. That was recorded on TV, extra large microphone close up. There was multiple. The state's deal was a cap at 48 months, which is 4 years, but the judge said he could go up to 10 if he wanted to, and there's no guarantee. But he said I'm not inclined to go more than what the prosecution asked for. There was something about an amended indictment because the original indictment was wrong. Agreement with the state is not binding. I wrote down that note. No one is promised probation. The judge made it clear that no one can promise you probation, not even the state, and that you may or may not get that. Multiple questions. There was multiple questions from the judge to make sure that everybody heard Bryce when he signed that plea deal. It was a show trial. I wrote down show trial because that was my impression. Okay, this is important. And this is where you guys come in. Your prayers and your letters. The judge did make a point to say that Bryce has received over 100 letters worldwide. He read every one of them.
He said that?
I know I said it before, but it's important. Praise God. Okay? Who knows what would have happened if you guys hadn't sent the letters, if you guys hadn't been praying, if God hasn't intervened in this situation, they could have thrown the book at him with Ken Meade leading the charge. You know what I mean? But now they're kind of in a quandary.
They know we're watching.
They know we're watching. Okay, and we are watching.
We sat in the front row.
We sat in the front row. We got as close as we could, and we sat as close as we could, and we let everybody know we was taking notes. You know, and I'm gonna bring back a camera Thursday if I can get that form filled out. That's all the thought dump that I can think of. Do you have anything to add, babe?
Free Bryce Queller. It's a First Amendment issue.
Yep.
No victim, no crime. FIJA.org.
Yep.
FIJA.
Expose corrupt cops in Las Vegas. We need to keep an eye on Kenneth Meade. We need to expose all of this, and praise God for you guys supporting Bryce Queller. And we're gonna be back. I think it was Thursday at 9, and I'll make the phone call again to confirm that. But it's Thursday at 9, and I'm assuming it's the same courtroom. But we'll call the Clark County Detention Center and confirm that. God bless you guys, and take care.